This one's called Feel the Wrath and it has words.
Feel the wrath. Feel the wrath. Wrath.
Recording in progress. Frank Ripple, welcome to the Feel the Wrath podcast.
Yo, what up, Carl, man? Thanks for having me on, bro.
Of course. How you doing? Been a minute.
Yeah, dude, we haven't kicked it, dude, since like what, 4th of July?
For real, dude.
It's been that long, huh?
Hella long.
Fuck, man.
Just working hella, right?
Yeah, man, just laying low, going to work, being a fucking black flag fucking family man, bro. You know what I mean? Got my John Wayne. But you know what I mean? I'm in my garage, bro. My well-stocked garage, fucking Christmas lights and shit.
Hey, what are you sipping on?
I got this cider. This guy at my work, one of the other forklift drivers, he brews cider and he gives me bottles all the time. And
nice.
So I just decided to buy some and shit, dude. It's bomb.
Fuck yeah.
Easier on my stomach than all that fucking IPA shit, you know?
I'm telling you.
Yeah, and I'm chilling out on drinking. What do you? Oh, you up? I got some other non-alcoholic IPA shit, dude. I had one of those today.
Nice.
Earlier.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to have a drink, dude, because of my day off and shit. But like,
right.
I don't like getting fucked up like during the day, like even one drink, dude, because it like just throws me off.
Right.
Like if I want to come out and play some if I want to do anything like important and do it well, like just even a beer, unless I have it maybe with a meal or something, then it's like fuck, but it'll make me feel like shitty for the rest of the day.
Fuck.
So I'm just like, I'll crack one of these fake IPAs. It'll be good.
Oh.
I can do shit still,
So, normal questions, Frank. I think you've seen a couple of the podcasts. So,
sure.
Where were you born?
I was born in San Mateo, California.
Nice. Hell yeah. And then, like, what area of San Mateo?
At Mills Hospital.
Okay.
And, but my parents, they lived in Foster City, and there's no hospital there. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And then, and what schools did you go to?
Yeah, I went to, elementary and junior high school in Foster City. And then for high school, I went to Sarah High School in San Mateo, and that was a Catholic, all boys, private school.
Right.
Yeah.
Same school as Tom Brady.
Exactly. He was a freshman the year I graduated.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And now he's a 7-time Super Bowl winner.
My brother Matt, he was in the same class as Brady, and he was there. And when Brady went to his first Super Bowl, my brother was locked up in Redwood City, and they were out on rec time, and he was watching the Super Bowl. And he was watching Tom Brady like win the Super Bowl, and he was thinking about how I went to high school with that dude.
Damn,
I'm like in here.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yep.
Damn. And like, who did you grow up with over there, like in Foster City and whatnot?
I just we had a crew. We had a crew of people. I got into I had a friend who lived right across the street from me that had a Kiss album, so I started hanging out with him. He was like my best friend from like kindergarten until like 5th grade. Mm-hmm. And he had a younger brother, and I had 2 younger brothers, so we all hung out together, and we listened to music and rode BMX bikes. Where I lived in Foster City was literally 2 blocks away from the levee on the actual San Francisco Bay, and there was big open areas. Actually, there was big open areas all over the city at that time. You know, undeveloped areas, and there was all those bike jumps, and there was an area right out there in the bay in the marshland that they had made a DIY BMX track and shit. So we would always be out there and we'd roam around the city and you know, and then and so I kind of liked heavy metal and shit like that. My older brother, who didn't live with us, he was always a presence though in my life, and he was always in bands and shit. One of the first shows I ever saw was his band in Santa Cruz. We all went, my mom and me and my younger brothers went and saw him play.
What were they called?
That band, his band, I think at that time it was a cover band. They were called Rogue.
Okay, what's up, Rogue?
Yeah, Rogue, and they play like Judas Priest covers and heavy like Saxon, like heavy metal bands that I didn't know about at that time. At that time, I was way into Rat, Def Leppard, you know, Van Halen, Quiet Riot, and all those types of bands. And then around that same time in 5th grade, I got into rap. I heard my first rap song, and got into, you know, hip hop culture and whatnot. And then when I started junior high school, that was where at my junior high school, it was a combination of the 2 elementary schools joining up. And then all of a sudden I didn't hang out with all the people from my old school and started hanging out with the people like I didn't have any of my friends in any of my classes. So I made new friends, and there was this cat who was a skateboarder, and he had a Zorlak sticker on his binder, like a pus head Zorlak. And I was like, what the fuck is that? You know? And he told me about it, and I got a skateboard that Christmas. I didn't get like a sick one from Go Skate, but I got one from Talbot's, the toy store, and I picked the one that had a British flag on it, like Def Leppard, bro. And it was all right. It was a step up from like a Kamikaze. You know what I mean? That's fucking Pride Club skateboards and shit. But it wasn't didn't have no independent trucks or nothing on it, right? And so that year I just 6th grade, I was like, I'm gonna fucking get a sick board. And I finally got one, like I think maybe for my birthday. I got some money. Like my parents didn't want to buy me a new one, so I had to like, you know, save up some money, get some birthday money, and buy a deck and shit. And then I just got totally into skateboarding culture and shit. And music wise, I kind of fell off a little bit. Like all those bands like Rat and stuff, Def Leppard started putting out like really bad, you know, records and shit. And I got into like Beastie Boys.
What age do you think this was around?
This was when I was 11, 12 years old.
Okay.
You know, at 1985.
Yeah.
And then it was I was in Boy Scouts and shit like that. And one of my friends from Boy Scouts, we went on a ski trip, and he fucking played Master of Puppets on the way up there, and fucking that shit just fucking changed everything, like music for me, music wise. I was like, I'd never heard anything like that. It was a little like, holy shit, this shit's kind of crazy, dude. But you know, it was the first time I heard music that wasn't like, you know, mainstream, you know, that wasn't on MTV, wasn't on the radio. Right. And I loved it and shit. And so that fucking reinvigorated my passion for music. Right. I played trumpet all throughout junior high school. So I started playing that in 6th grade. Mm-hmm. The band from the junior high came to our elementary school, and they played for us. They were trying to recruit people. And I got home and told my parents about the trumpet player and how good he was. And they were like, you know, I said I wanted to play it, so they fucking went and rented the instrument, you know, for me and shit. And yeah, I was a skater, was listening to Metallica, you know. That was it, you know.
So yeah, and then so you were into that music and whatnot, but what moved you towards wanting to play a bass?
So yeah, my friend who I told you from across the street, his name was Peter Buick, and he's a dude with the Kiss album Dynasty that we listened to, and and we were on that same journey as far as music and whatnot, and he ended up getting a bass, and then he moved like to another neighborhood, but I had a paper route in that neighborhood, so I'd after my route, I'd go to his house, and he'd let me fuck around with his bass, and his brother was a drummer, his little brother, and those guys would jam and shit, and I'd watch him play and fucking and I remember fucking Pete taught me how to play that little part in Orion, that part in the middle of it where it's like and he taught me how to do that, and I was just like, man, I want to fucking play bass, bro. And you know, we were all about like Cliff Burton, you know, he stood out, you know, so much. And then my little brother Matt, he had a friend Patrick that he had got a guitar for Christmas, like this is maybe like 1988, you know, and then my brother was like, I'm gonna fucking get a drum set, man, you know, I want to play drums. And I was like, all right, man, well, I'm gonna be the bassist then, dude. And then that was it, you know, that's how we started our first band. Okay. And it took a while. Like Pat got his guitar, and my brother didn't get his drum set until like 7 months later. And then I got my bass. I bought it with money I made. I was in Boy Scouts, so I worked as a camp counselor. Mm-hmm. And over the summers, I did that every summer when I was in high school. And I made $500 that first year. Yeah. And then my older brother Russ took me to B Street Music in San Mateo, and I picked out, you know, it was like, I have $500, so they're like, all right, you know, and then, you know, I got this Ibanez fucking bass and a practice amp and like, you know, a cord and a pick and shit and a strap and fucking, you know, it was $500 for all that shit, you know, and that was it, man. We started jamming, you know, in our garage or up in my brother's room, wherever his set happened to be. And my parents were cool about that shit, man. They were really actually cool about it. They bought him that drum set. Yeah. And even though it was hella noisy, like, and I always thought my dad, and, you know, my dad was kind of a cranky dude. He had been in a bad fucking accident when I was just fucking like 3 years old or something. And he got fucking, he was crippled, man, for life.
Oh, wow. And
so he, you know, was always having surgeries and they were never working. He had dozens of surgeries on his back and shit. And like, he was addicted to painkillers. He'd go off them, he'd drink and fucking, you know, it was tough sometimes in the house and shit. But like, he never really fucking ever came down like that DRI song, you know, fucking Madman. Like my dad was Madman, but he never fucking said that shit about our band.
I got off at 4:30.
That's the best sample ever. Totally. He's like, these guys are fucking.
I don't need you at all. It's the best album ever. So rad.
Yeah, so yeah, bro, once we had our band, it was cool because it was like, you know, we'd go out and we'd skateboard and fucking we'd session and then we'd fucking jam and fucking, it was fun, man. It was good times, you know. And
what did you call it? What was the name of it?
Our first band was called Radioactive Lunch.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, and our homeboy Jimmy Ness, he was supposed to be the first singer, and and he came up with that name. We were at a Boy Scout meeting one time, and he's like, "Dude, I got the name of our band, bro." And he's like, and we're all, "What, dude?" He's like, "Radioactive Lunch," and we were just, yeah. And we thought that was great. You know, most of our songs were about like McDonald's and fucking Taco Bell and shit like that. And like we were way into fucking the Stormtroopers of Death album, man. We thought that was the best and shit. And yeah, and that and we like thrash metal and shit like that. And then and then as I was going through high school, we were getting into different shit. Like when the thrash metal band started to fall off, you know, and started to get lame. I didn't have any homeboys that were really into death metal. But my friends Iad and Aaron, who I went to high school with, they were way into Primus, and they were going to see Primus like when all they had was their demo, you know, their first tape, which was a live album. And so they fucking took, you know, played that shit for me. And as a bass player, I was just like, fuck yeah, dude, this shit's sick. So I got really into that. And then I wanted to fucking like learn how to play like Les Claypool. So I was like I was trying to slap and shit like that. I took bass lessons because then I ended up starting to play in the jazz band and the concert band in school. So I was a trumpet player. I was never a very good trumpet player, man, unfortunately. But when the bassist graduated, I was just a sophomore. And so the band teacher was like, "Yo, we need somebody to play bass next year. You know, if anybody knows anybody." And I went up to him after class, and I'd been playing all year. And he's like, "All right, I'll get you up to speed on reading, you know, the bass clef and shit like that." And I took lessons with him. And then he was like, "I want you to take private lessons too, because, you know, the jazz band's a little bit different than the shit we're doing in regular band and shit." So I took lessons at Gelb. They had practice rooms in the Redwood City Gelb, and I don't know, you know, so I was doing that shit, and I was getting pretty good, man. I was better than like my brother and my homeboy Pat and shit. And I would jam with like all these other people all the time, all over the fucking place, people from different high schools and shit like that. It was cool, man.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
You're making this fucking easy, because all of these questions that I had that I've written down, you've answered like everything already.
it all links to one another.
Totally.
You know,
absolutely. Yeah. And then so where'd you guys have your first show, Radioactive Lunch?
Our first show was at my high school. It was at a battle of the bands that they had, and I was a senior. And I actually put it up on my SoundCloud. I have a cool little Sony Walkman, an old school one that was that had a built-in microphone and you could record on it. Nice. And my brother Russ, he recorded it for us, and it's cool, man. We were totally fucking not like any of the other bands that played at all. We were by then our influences were we sort of shed, like I was talking about Primus and shit, like we'd kind of we'd got into punk finally by this time, because that's where I was going with that whole Primus thing. It was like I didn't go from thrash into death metal into grindcore like the traditional fucking route. You know, I went into the more alternative shit with Primus, got into like the Jane's Addiction, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and all that kind of shit. Mr. Bungle and Faith No More, when, you know, they opened up for Metallica, dude. So like, you know, I remember when we were in high school, I was a freshman, and like when people heard it was Faith No More, and some dude went and bought the Faith No More album, and we were listening to it, you know. Then there was that video, and You know, that's like the first sort of rap metal fucking song that anybody ever did. You know, but you know, so I got into all that shit, and then we got like some Danzig records, and we knew about the Misfits and a little bit about the Dead Kennedys and like sort of the classic sort of punk bands and shit, you know, and that was also because of Metallica and shit like that. But and then and we liked this band Soundgarden a lot. My brother Russ had left a tape. This is before they got big, and they were really fucking heavy. They're old shit, and we were like, man, this heavy shit's sick, dude. And that sent me on a quest looking for, you know, I used to fucking take my skateboard and go down to like Payless or Longs, or what was I think it was Longs. And they had magazines, and they'd have like Hit Parader, Circuit. They'd have like heavy metal magazines, Rip. I think there was one called Rip. And around that time they would have Soundgarden in it. And you'd look at it, you'd read the article, and you'd look at the pictures, and you'd see whatever T-shirt that they were wearing. And then I'd go to Tower Records in San Mateo, and I had no money, but I would just look through and see what they had, and they would have the albums by those bands, you know. And you know, so here and there, when I had money, I'd get an album, or I'd go to the Vinyl Solution. That was a record store in San Mateo that was, you know, really, it's still there, but it's really important for us. And I'd always just, you know, most of the time I was just looking through shit. You know, I never had money. You know, even though I had my paper out and stuff, I was always spending all that money on like McDonald's and shit. You know? But I'd start picking up records, and I got like Nirvana, and I got Mudhoney. But everything changed when I got fucking Eggnog by the Melvins. And then I was like, the heaviest song on Louder Than Love by Soundgarden is like this song called Gun. And on the Melvins record, every song was like that heavy. Right. It wasn't just this one song that was really heavy. It was like, dude, no, all of our songs are fucking heavy. And, you know, and so I was like, holy shit, this is the fucking band right here, you know? And so we, and then, and all at the same, you know, at the same time, we're getting into fucking Black Flag and fucking, one thing that was cool is my older brother, Russ, would always, whatever I was getting into, he'd ask me, and he would be able to fucking just like tell me all about it, you know, if it was Def Leppard or, you know, if it was any band, you know. And so when we saw Jane's Addiction, I went to the first Lollapalooza with my friend to see Jane's Addiction, and Rollins' band opened up. And he was telling me about Rollins' band and how Henry Rollins was the singer for Black Flag and fucking, and just, you know, he would just tell me all these stories about seeing Black Flag or fucking Santa Cruz. That's, my brother lived in Santa Cruz and shit when I was a kid. And so it was always awesome to fucking, like, whatever I got into, I could talk to him about it, and he knew about it. You know what I mean? And that was the case with the Melvins. I was, you know, Pink Floyd, I could talk to him, and he would be like, oh man, and he'd just tell me all these crazy ass things, and all those stories, you know, they stick in my head, and, you know, they're just like legends that you hear about these fucking rock stars, you know. So our band, we were into, like, when we played that first show, we were in the Rollins band. The first song is like totally like a Rollins band ripoff. We had some fast hardcore shit, like, you know, like DRI, but like, you know, really shitty, not good. We weren't really good at our instruments, dude, but we just did it anyway, you know what I mean? And we did pretty good, and we did a Beastie Boys cover too. And the singer, my friend Justin, who's a really good drummer, who I used to jam with, he was our singer at that show, and he played bass for that. We did that song "Looking Down the Barrel of a Gun." Sick. You know, it's just like the sickest, heaviest fucking Beastie Boys song there ever was. And And then and a lot of shit started happening. And this is 1992, and there was a punk rocker at my high school named Gabe Lucas, who he actually owns that place, Redwood Coast Cider.
Okay.
There's one in he's got a couple locations, I believe, but his parents used to run a school in Half Moon Bay in El Granada, and it was like a kindergarten ass school, and they let him put a show on there. He did like probably 3 shows there before some fucking dickhead, fucking tagger, fucking faggot, fucking he scrolled the fucking mirror there, and then that was never any more shows. Never again. But that like a couple months later, we played our first real punk show at that school, and that was critical because that's the day I met. Well, no, I didn't. I met Dan right before that. About like right after we graduated. This is an important story here. This one's good. We heard that by this, after I got into Melvins, then we got into Sleep. We got into Neurosis in our little Foster City crew, right? And also went to school with Jason Balcells. He went to my high school as well, and he was a skater, and he was into heavy music, and we used to go to shows all the time. We went and saw the Melvins and fucking, wherever. We went to a lot of shows and whatnot, and he was like, "Yo, Sleep's playing at this little fucking pizza place in fucking Saratoga." And we're like, "Oh, well, we're going, right?" So we all fucking roll. I used to drive this Clark Griswold station wagon. I hit the hand-me-down family fucking car.
Oh yeah.
And it had wood paneling on it. It was an Oldsmobile custom cruiser. It had the spoked fucking hubcaps and the whole fucking deal, man. And I could roll deep in that shit. Oh. And most of my friends too, because of what happened with me in high school, and I kind of, all the skaters that I was friends with in junior high school, they all went to other schools. They all quit skating because they were like, chicks don't like skaters. Like they actually said that shit, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, well, I don't have any chicks at my school, so I'm gonna keep riding, bro. And but what happened was I ended up becoming friends because my brother and Pat, we had our band together. And those guys are 3 years younger than me. Oh. And so now I'm hanging out with all these dudes that are 3 years younger than me, but I had the car. I mean, that they were fucking stoked, to be around. But it was like that was our band, So like I ended up hanging out with them, and and my little brother's friends mostly.
Right. And
so we all rolled to this fucking show, and it was Sleep, 976, and Plutocracy. And I'm sure you were there. It was eye-opening, and there was a lot of people there. And I remember I'm meeting this guy named Matt Cornell, who was in a band. He was from San Mateo. He had a band called Amygdala. And I met Dan Lactose. I got Clout stickers. there was one on my car that night, but I put stickers all over that fucking car. Skateboard stickers, Black Flag, Mudhoney, fucking anything and everything. And so that was a sick ass show, man, because it was one of the first underground shows that like there were people like us playing, and they weren't that either. They were the same age as us or a little older than us, but they were fucking like, it wasn't even at a real club, it was at it was at a Pony Express type place. Totally. Which I had gone to a couple fucking times. When they closed before we ever got to play there, unfortunately. And which we were bummed. I made a fake flyer. I have to find that of us playing at the Pony Express. We never played there, but I made one because we wanted to play so bad, But I never saw anybody cool there. I saw a couple of my friends' bands there. But anyway, that show at Italo's, man, was Sleep and fucking Pluto and shit. I met Dan there, but then I really talked to Dan when I saw him a month later at this Half Moon Bay show that we played together with his band.
Okay.
I think Sheep Squeeze played. If not, it was Clout. But it was sick, and that was how we started to network, with people from Redwood City. That was the first. And another guy that I went to high school with, who's an important part of my story with punk rock, is this guy Mark Bianchi, and he was a year older than me, but he was into punk rock, and he would bring records to school. I remember seeing an Operation Ivy record, and I didn't know what it was, but it was the first sort of Gilman sort of thing coming in that I had heard of or seen, and he started a band that was going to play a party. It was just to play this party, and we learned a bunch. And he asked me to play bass for it, and my friend Iad played drums, and this dude and our friend Jason Crouch, he was the singer, and we did a bunch of punk covers. We did a Bad Religion song. We did a couple of Green Day songs. This is 2 years before Green Day blew up. This is 92, when they were still just an underground lookout band, And I wasn't into the music, Radioactive Lunch was heavier than that. We were more about the Melvins and shit like that. So, but it was still any opportunity I could get to play, I would take, you know what I mean? And Mark was cool. Iad was one of my best friends. So, it was a no-brainer. And right after we played that party, it was a cool party. It was up in the San Mateo Highlands at this girl, Diane Katechi's house. I think her boyfriend at the time was a skinhead, and like a trad skinhead, like the nice ones. That Fred Perry, and they weren't Nazis. There was never Nazis around. That was something that you heard about in magazines or whatever, but I never saw that kind of shit growing up at all. But there was a fight at that party, dude. The cops came and we bounced. But right after that, Mark and Iad and Jason started a band, and they got the bass player for Sheep Squeeze, Rob Begstrom, to play bass. And they started their band, and it was like a pop punk band. It was like Green Day and all that shit. Mm-hmm. And that's a really important thing, because once Iad and Rob were jamming, then Sheep Squeeze asked Iad to play drums for Sheep Squeeze. And they recorded with Bart this in 92, in that summer. And Iad came back and he told us about it, and he's like, dude, we went to this place in Palo Alto and fucking recorded, check it out. And we were just like, fuck, this is fucking sick, dude. And when I met Dan at that show, they had Sheep Squeeze records, dude. They fucking had 7 inches, and they printed their own t-shirts, and so all this whole world is opening up in front of my eyes. And I was just fucking, I'm 18, I'm supposed to be going to fucking college. I went to a college prep high school. I applied to colleges, and they were like, I think I totally bombed on my SATs, and I remember writing some essays to get in, and they were so fucking ridiculous. I cringe when I think about what I was writing about, but maybe it's because I didn't want to go,
Totally.
And I just wanted to ride my skateboard, jam in my fucking punk band, and fucking try to meet a fucking chick or something, because 4 fucking years of all fucking boys fucking high school, man. That shit fucking turned me into a fucking straight up incel, bro. You know what I mean?
Yo.
And which was fucked, man. It fucked me up, man. It really did. But you know, we all have our journey, man, you know, in life and shit. And so you know, once I was met up with Dan and all this recording, Bart, the House of Faith, all that shit, you know, we were like, you know, I mean, we booked with Bart, and all we had to pay was $60 fucking bucks.
Damn, fuck
It was
yeah.
$10. Basically, he was charging $10 an hour. I think our session was from 6 to midnight, and we paid $60 for the session. We paid it $60 for the tape, which we bought in Redwood City at this fucking. There was a little storefront right across from Ampex. The Ampex buildings were all in Redwood City then, and that's where they made tape and machines and all that shit, or at least they did, you know, in the 60s or whatever. And fucking, so this little store called Arcal, all they sold was fucking tape and fucking music, like shit like that. And it was directly across from Ampex, and the reel was Ampex. And we recorded, dude. And it was fucking one of the coolest experiences I've ever had in my whole life. Like, that first time was the best because, you know, you go from trying to make your own fucking shitty ass recordings with your Radio Shack mixer and like plugged into a fucking microphone jack on a boombox, you know, it sounds like complete shit, to fucking like a pro recording, dude. And we were just like, holy shit. And you know, you see all the records in his control room. You see all the graffiti all over the fucking, you know, we saw Stinkweed's graffiti all over the place during those times. We jammed at another place in Menlo Park called Multiplex Studios. It was off when you take Marsh Road, but you go toward the bay. Mm-hmm. It was right there on that frontage road. Right. And that place was covered with stinkweeds everywhere, just like with Sharpies, like every little fucking in the bathroom, fucking just there's a little area that says stinkweed. And we saw stinkweeds on 101. If you were driving on 101, you'd see them. And in Foster City at that time, everybody had a tag. You know, we had our crews called FTS. We had another one that stood for Front the Shirt, just some gibberish, you know. And then there was another crew called SAC, Skaters Against Cops. Okay. And we were all into hip hop and everything, you know. So tagging was like, we knew about it, but we started doing it. And some of the guys, there was a couple guys from Foster City that got into US. They got into that crew, and so all those things are all happening, you know, all at the same time. Skateboarding, tagging, fucking, you know, punk music, and it was fucking the best. It was the best times.
Oh yeah, and then so you met up with Dan and whatnot, and then. Did you move to the Chestnut House after, and then meet Pelon and all them, or did you meet them before that? And then like, how did that come about?
All right. Yeah. So I lived in Redwood City when I first moved out of my parents' house. They were basically like, you know, they did that whole trip where it's like, if you go to school, you can live here. If you're not going to go to school, you need to get a job and pay rent. And so I was delivering pizzas at the time, and I always had money in my pocket. And a friend from Boy Scouts asked me if I wanted to rent a room. And they had a condo in Redwood City, right off El Camino on Carlos Street, right by Mel's Bowl. Okay. And I was like, and it was going to be $400 a month, and I was like, I could do that. So I fucking moved out. And every once in a while I saw on Carlos Street, I'd see this fucking dude fucking walking from the El Camino down Carlos Street, and he had a shaved head. He was fucking full fucking tatted, and he just looked like a fucking, mean fucking, like, psychotic fucking, like, criminal, And at that time, this is 1994. I had like some bleached hair. I'd put like fucking, some Manic Panic in it sometimes and shit. And, I was a punk rock skateboarder guy, and I'd see him and shit here and there. And, but by this time, by 94, I'm fully entrenched in the Gilman fucking, we're going there every weekend. And Spaz had already been around. Spaz had already started a couple years before that. So we were like all about Dan's new band Spaz, and it has Max from Plutocracy in it. And fucking, and we were just like, we were getting into all the Slappy shit, Infest, Crossed Out, No Comment, all the fucking heavy fucking hardcore bands, right? Man is the Bastard. But that was another point I wanted to make earlier about when Ead joined with Sheep Squeeze. Ead fucking, they turned him on to Man is the Bastard. He comes back, plays us this tape at this, we used to skateboard in San Mateo at this bank called Home Savings, and they had these big ass ledges, and fucking Reno's used to fucking be there, and he spracked the fucking highest fucking ollies I'd ever fucking seen. And these ledges, I couldn't nose slide on them. They're just too high, but that dude could. Yeah. But they had a manual pad there and shit. But anyway, back to Redwood City. So I'd see Paylone. I didn't know who he was. And then one day, while I was living in this place in Redwood, I had picked up the ETO No Less split 7-inch. And I already had a couple Plutocracy records at that time. And they were older ones. They were the Freedom Denied 7-inch and maybe the 976 split. And so I get this No Less record, and I drop the needle on it, and I'm listening to it, and it's like, it's so fucking wild. It's so crazy. It's fucking so fucking heavy and brutal and twisted and just evil, but not in a satanic way, but in just like a more real way. Like, man, like this is fucked up, man. And I'm looking at it and just tripping out on it. And then I see the address, and it's fucking, Carlos Street.
Funny.
And I'm like, no way, these guys fucking live over here. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I wonder if that one dude is in No Less, right? So obviously he was, and I probably found that, I don't know how I found that out, if it was when I went to go first see them or not, but and that was an early night. I didn't see them until January 95. I lived there in 94. So that was probably when I discovered, yeah, that is fucking the guy that I see. And so I'm living there. I quit. My car got fucked up, man. My station wagon, man, took a fucking shit, dude. Like delivering pizzas, dude, and that thing, it fucking completely fucking just destroyed. So I had to quit that job. I didn't have a car, and I ended up going back to my mom's or my parents' house. They were still together then, and then but by May of 95, I fucking was ready to. I got a new job. I was a janitor, and I was ready to get the fuck back out of there, And so we found this little place in Redwood City that was $750 a month, and I got my mom to co-sign on it, and they let us in there, and it was just a whole bunch of people from Foster City. It was like 5 of us living in basically it was a 1.5 bedroom, it's basically like a double wide, kind of what it looks like.
Damn.
Had a little kitchen, had a little bathroom. And so we were living there. doing our thing. Fucking, I had finally seen No Less. Fucking, I was already skateboarding and hanging out with Dan and Max all the time by this point. And Dan and Max would come over to the Chestnut House. And this is before No Less, right? And then one night, I wasn't able to go, but my friend Ness, who lived at Chestnut, he went and partied in Redwood, and he was partying with fucking these No Less people. And when he got back home, he was like, "Hey man, fucking Josh from No Less is gonna move into our house." And I'm like, cool, you know, like, and apparently they were talking, and Paylon like was, I guess, had mentioned that he didn't, you know, have a place to stay, and so Ness just volunteered that he could come and live at our house. And there was 2 separate bedrooms, and we had built this loft area, and so we made sort of 3 bedrooms. We gave Paylon one that had a door. It was the smallest one that we had, and a water heater in it with you. Yeah. And Paylon moved in, and he was real quiet at first, and you know, and I didn't know him at all. And I think he kind of had like a housewarming party, maybe, you know, like soon after, and we're kindred, and Thomas, and I had met Thomas before already too. Thomas was probably the first person from No Less that I met, and because Thomas and Dan were really good friends, and right when we moved into Chestnut, we had gone and recorded with Bart, or Bart came and recorded us up in our place in San Francisco. And I went to Dan's house to play him the Agents tape that we had just recorded, and Colmex came over, and we were hanging out and shit. And I remember meeting him there kind of officially. And then, so Paylon moves in, and those guys start coming around, and the first night that I ever bonded with Paylon, my brother and Ness, they were trying to clown. They were hanging out with Paylon and talking shit. They were trying to clown on me, and they were like, "Yeah, this fucking fag, he likes fucking the Smiths and fucking Joy Division and stuff." And Paylon's just like, you know, he just fucking does it like Paylon laugh and shit. I can't imitate his laugh, but kind of like that laugh from that Indian, that Native American dude in Predator. You know, he always laughs at the jokes like fucking 10 minutes later when he gets it. And so Paylon fucking, he's quiet about it, and then fucking, I felt like those guys had left. They weren't there, and Paylon had this PA system that he had set up in the house. And he was off work, and it was like, you know, maybe he had the next day off or something, so he was fucking getting loaded, right? And he's just I walk in the house, and he's like blasting like The Cure.
Fun.
Dude, at fucking like at 11, dude. You know, at volume 11, like Disintegration, dude. And it's so heavy, you know, it's a heavy ass record, man. I mean, there is a lot of heavy songs on it. And I was just like, fuck yeah, dude. And he's like, and he's got like a bottle of fucking Jack fucking Daniels and shit. And he fucking, you know, puts it in my hand and shit. And fucking, you know, I'm peer pressured into fucking taking a swig. And I just started kicking it with him and shit. And fucking, you know, after a couple hours, dude, the fucking 45 comes out, a knife comes out. You know, I have scars on my hands, you know, because he was cutting himself, dude, and fucking, and handing me the knife, you know. Now it's time to bleed, bro. Call Dr. P-Lo, you know. So, and that was a thing. That was a thing that these guys did. I didn't know that then, but later I would see pictures and,
Right.
pictures of Palone and Thomas and Stinkweed and some other dude, and they're just all bloody and drinking fucking Budweisers, and that was my initiation. And after that, the No Less guys were there all the time. Stinkweed, he wasn't seeing me at first. He just ignored me. He was in his own world, and I wasn't doing anything that would put me on his radar. Stinkweed was probably friends with Ness and my brother first, because those guys like to fucking snort crank. And, the devil recognizes his own. I wasn't about that shit at all. Like, at that time, I was just easing back into drinking and smoking weed, because for a minute, I wasn't even doing that. I had this girlfriend at the time, and everybody was starting to get into fucking meth. And I was like, man, this is ramping up a little bit too much, for me. Like, yeah, I like to get, take acid sometimes, do some shrooms, man, but I don't want to fucking be snorting methamphetamine, dude.
Oh.
That seemed like a red flag to me. But so it took a minute, and I knew who he was, and I knew he was the sickest guitar player I'd ever seen. And I loved Plutocracy and No Less, and I was so excited that these guys that we were finally meeting them and hanging out with them. And I was disappointed that I hadn't made a connection with Kindred at all, and I didn't know if I was going to, because he would do shit like, we had a Plutocracy, like Palone made the Plutocracy banner, like that one that says, like, that famous one with the fist on it. And like, we had that on the ceiling, and Stinkweed would be like in there, and he'd be like and just badass looch on that shit. And this is my house, dude, right? And I'm just like, man, I don't know about this fool, bro. Like, and and then another thing happened right a little before this, though. Let me go back. This is still in 95. There was a show happening at Gilman, and it was a fucking stacked bill. It was going to be Anal Cunt, Man is the Bastard, No Less, Spaz. All right? And a couple of days before the show, Dan calls me. This is right before we moved to Chestnut. And he calls me at my mom's house, and he's like, yo, Frank, fucking Anal Cunt and Man is a Bastard aren't going to be making it for this show. Does agents want to play it? And of course we did, right? So we played with Spaz and No Less at Gilman. I don't even know if there was any other bands. And I remember while we were playing, we didn't have that many songs. And so we'd be up on stage, we'd play a song, a 30-second long song, and then we'd fucking take a minute to discuss what the next song was going to be. And some people were getting rowdy in the pit for us, because, we were playing aggressive shit. And Stinkweed was one of them. He's like in the pit, dude, with his shirt off. There wasn't really that many people there, and it was only homeboys and shit. And we're like, what song should we play? And fucking Stinkweed from the fucking pit goes, play Snort Fat Lines of fucking Crank. And we all fucking start busting up, dude, and fucking and that was fucking cool, man. But fast forward, and so Palone moves in like fall of 95. Dan Hogan, I had this other band called Paralisium Cantos. It was kind of like an emo band. And we had a show in LA. My friend Iad was the drummer, and this dude Mark Rogers was the singer and guitarist. And he booked a show for us in LA, and Palone's like, hey, is it cool if I roll? And I was like, of course, dude. And so I drove down, and he's like, hey, can can I bring my homeboy? And his homeboy was Dan Hogan, big boy. So it was me, Dan Hogan, Paylon, and my girlfriend, and we all rolled down there, and we played the show, and they hung out. I have pictures of me playing live, and in the pictures, you can see Dan, you can see fucking Paylon. It's pretty cool. And we stayed at this Momo on the Strip, on Sunset Strip, and it was the same hotel that was in that movie, True Romance. And Paylon, he goes, hey, I'm gonna grab these for the fucking Agents banner, because Paylon's all like, he wanted to make the Agents banner, and I was like, fuck yeah. And he stole 2 sheets from that hotel. He had his mom sew them together, because this banner's huge, and that was really cool. And so we were starting to become tight with these guys, and then like a month later, Agents plays the Fiesta Grande. We got invited. Max totally hooked that up. Dan and Max, because they were in Spaz and they were friends with Dodge, like they totally got us on that shit. And we had our banner that Paylon made up. We had all the fucking No Less heads were there to fucking to fuck shit up in the pit, dude. There's a picture of Thomas tackling Jason up on stage. Thomas gave me this sick ass fucking, like, it was like one of Raylene's fucking like pantyhose or leggings or something that he made into like a little fucking like gangster hat, like where you just tie it off and fucking like wear it like a beanie, but it's got like a long ass tail, and I'm wearing that and fucking. Cattle Press came into town, and because they didn't know anybody, Dan called me and was like, Dan Lactos was like, hey, look, Chris was wondering if you guys want to, help out the guys from Cattle Press. And we're like, fuck yeah, you know what I mean? Because they had only one song out at that time, but it was so heavy and devastating. We were just like, and I thought one of the dudes from Born Against was in that band too, and I like Born Against a lot, dude. But that's how we met Lino and Eddie and Joey from Cattle Press. They hung out at the Chestnut House. These guys from fucking Brooklyn and Staten Island, like real fucking New York heads, were at our house, and our house was horrifying and disgusting, and it smelled really bad because it had been raining and just smelled like mold and just all the beer. And it was like, they were like, yo, B, is there like a hotel around it? Because, we're on vacation, B, you know what I mean? Like, we got money and shit. It's all good. Like, we're like, yeah. We took them to some place on El Camino and shit. They're like, we are not staying here.
Hilarious.
But, man, so 96, that's January, and fucking our friendship with Agents and No Less and ETO, Spaz, like, it's starting to become like, I was working at 7-Eleven in downtown Palo Alto at Ness at the time, and it was crazy. I mean, we'd be bumping fucking Spaz and Rorschach and shit on our boombox and fucking, and it was just, and at that time, No Less rehearsed in East Palo Alto. And Snowman worked down the street at like a print shop. And so they would all meet up at that 7-Eleven to get beer. And fucking, when they came up to us to buy it, we're just like,
go ahead.
No sale, and fucking like they're fucking walking out with free beer. So, They were loving that. That was in 95 too. So that was another part of the connection where here and there we're fucking kind of meeting up, seeing these dudes. We're not like friends yet, but we're like, we're getting there. And so it was funny too, because when I went to drop the Cattle Press dudes off at SFO, and we went and picked up some weed at Double Rock by Candlestick Park on the way, even though it was out of the way. But get home and I'm high, and I get home and I see Ness, and he was supposed to go to work that day, and I see him and he's fucking sitting there and he's watching TV. He's got his leg crossed like this. He's got a piece of pizza in his mouth, And I fucking walk in the door. He's right there, and I go, "Oh, what's up? I thought you had work today, bro." And he turns to me, and he goes, "We're fired." And we both started laughing for like 5 fucking minutes straight. We were stealing fucking money from there. We memorized all the prices for cigarettes, Big Gulp. We were just fucking ringing up no sales, fucking, counting in our heads how much cash, that we're going to give them and how much we're going to give us. And the manager, he liked us, so I think he fired us so that we didn't get fucking straight up arrested.
Damn.
Yeah. So Ness, his parents used to run a Ace Hardware store, and he knew how to do shit like that. And he's always been a bad influence on me, or I let him be a bad influence on me. And at the time, he had got busted for fucking meth. And to stay out of jail, they put him in a drug diversion program. But that shit cost money. And every time you went at once a week, it cost like $80 or something. And so he'd come to work and he's like, "Yo, man, I need to get my money up for fucking, for my fucking drug diversion class, dude. You got to help me out, bro." And then I'm like, "All right, what do I got to do, man?" And then he's just like, "You just go like this, bro. A Gulp's fucking 102, right? You know how many, we sell those shits all day, And I'm like, "All right, fool." And that's how that was why it started, because he needed to pay his fucking drug shit to stay out of jail.
Crazy.
Yeah, but